Another thing I would throw first at Barun is that we've talked about, Adi pointed this out, that 15, 16-year-olds can just take anything and put that on a easy production software like FL Studio or something and churn something out of it. But Barun would understand that getting a 15 to 16-year-old to even get him to a point that he would understand concepts like rhythm and all these things, whatever they need to be exposed to even sample song a minute of it and just do a little bit of things to it and then turn it into something else. It does sort of show that it's getting easier to educate people over music. You don't really need to go to as much of length as they used to, and that's good, bad, I don't know. I would say it is good just because you're getting the exposure. Varun, you
Tanmay,
don't teach music.
I do teach music, and I haven't been teaching music for very long though. I have been teaching for 4 years, I
Five,
think.
6 years. Oh, at
Five,
least
6 years,
5 years.
sure.
I've known you 5 years since you've been
Last
teaching
count.
since.
Um, that's not a lot, technically, as a teacher's experience. That's not a lot, but what I have realized is teaching, educating someone about the concept is easy. That's the easy part. That's extremely easy. You give them information and they'll take it. That's it. The thing is, the difficult part of the music is opening your senses to it. That's, I think, difficult part of any field. Like, I may tell you that, hey, to play this song, he's using a major scale, right? But to really understand it as a person and as a musician, you need to be able to, you need to sort of get it into your own system, right? Which I can't technically do to you. I can maybe force you to do exercises and kind of memorize it and understand it, but you won't really get it unless you know get it into yourself. You know what I mean? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make
Or is
sense.
this
Having been your student for so long, it does make sense. But I don't know if it makes sense to anyone else.
Either you tell me, am I being too vague?
No, not at all, man. Again, like, I feel like a lot of things I say can be seen like a little offensively or aggressively, but like, I have nothing against 15, 16-year-old producers producing, like, I have, because I was one of those people, like, like few years ago when I was 15 or 16, like, having my first, I started with GarageBand, moved to Ableton 8, then Logic, then Ableton 10. So, like, I know what it's like to be one of those people who have, like, a head full of dreams or whatever, wanting to make music, but having no way to go about it. And I didn't get, like, a music education early on. So I had already taught myself how to use a DAW, and then I learned what scales are and how to compose. So essentially, I was just like going at it with a drum machine, because drums, and I didn't know that, even drums can be tuned to a pitch. So for the longest time, I was just like, okay, like, this is a kick, snare, hats, this and that. So I can appreciate anyone trying to produce, and push their own envelope, push their own limit, and be like, okay, this is something I want to teach myself. But it has to, and maybe this is not right to demand of a 15, 16-year-old, but just to have strong intention is important, right? So it could be the intention to learn, it could be the intention to develop one's art or to develop one's craft. So if you have, the problem is, if you are a 15-year-old who thinks they know it all and are making generic beats on FL Studio and only want to make beats all your life without exposing yourself to any other kind of music, that's a problem. And unfortunately, there's far too many people like that, as opposed to 15-year-olds who are like, how can I make my record better the next time? How can I make my beat sound less generic than the other 31 billion beats on YouTube? Like, that is what is missing, and that's kind of where I come from.
It's not just 15 or 16 years old. In fact, there are like a lot of people who make music on their own, but they don't grow, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
right? They don't grow from
Exactly.
what they've done. They do it, and then they just that's just what expands and multiplies.
it's disposable music, so, and that is the problem with also the industry at large, right? So you have so
Yeah.
much disposable music which trends for a week and then like is obscure. Obviously it may not be disposable for the artist who made it, but a lot of times artists choose to make disposable music themselves because they want to cash in on something and then like, you know, just go on to the next wave. And that becomes a problem because now there's so much music people don't want to buy anymore, so you will only have super fans buying on Bandcamp, but Spotify isn't going to give you peanuts. Apple Music pays only slightly better. It's hard to convince people to buy music or like merchandise in general. So like if the supply of music was to drop, and this is where the catch 22 is, it's easier than ever to make music. That's why a 16-year-old with no prior education can whip out a complete record, right? No matter how good or bad that is up to people to decide, right? So it's easier than ever to make music, but it's harder than ever to get it heard. Because even if you were like a small garage band, pun intended, in the 90s, you could still go and like get your local rock venue or like your local club to listen to it and be like, acha Monday ko aake baja le. But now if you're a DJ and you're making beats and you're like, hey, I want to play a gig, they'll be like, okay, how many people can you get me to the venue? Or acha, but I already have these 5 people in mind who can get me these many people. So if there was lesser disposable music and people who are working with truer intention and with like either the intention to grow or to like or to do something, either to grow themselves or to grow their community, I feel like that would just fare so much better. But it's a pipe dream, you know. It's kind of like longing for a time that won't exist. It is a very vaporwave aesthetic in that sense.
Nice, the whole conversation